Live from the Glasgow Electric Plant Board, Glasgow Wants to Know. With your host, Mr. Uhel Barrickman.
Tonight we have the candidates for the state senate from this district, both the Republican and Democrat candidate. The Republican candidate is Richie Sanders. The Democratic candidate is John Day Jake Dickinson. Mr. Sanders, suppose, although you've been here before and both of you have, suppose you briefly give the audience your background insofar as where you live, your education, your marital status, and how you make your livelihood.
I reside at 1070 Cleabit Road, Smith Grove address, but live in the edge of Edmonson County. Graduate of Edmonson County High School, a graduate of Western Kentucky University, where I received a degree in public administration with a major in government and a minor in history. This year, in August, I married my lovely wife from Litchfield, Leslie Goff. It was my first marriage, and I live on a farm. Have been in the restaurant business. Grow tobacco, beef cattle, and serve in the state for this area in the state senate now.
Mr. Dickinson.
Thank you, Uhel. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. I've lived in Glasgow all of my life. I'm married to the former Pat Martin of Bowling Green and have been for the past 29 years. That's also my first marriage. We have 2 grown children and a lovely 3-year-old granddaughter. I graduated from Glasgow High School, attended Western Kentucky University, where I majored in small business management. I spent 6 years active duty in the United States Marine Corps, 1 tour in Vietnam. After the period of active service, I served 20 years in the Army Reserve and now belong to the retired reserve with rank of major. I own Dickinson Financial Group here in Glasgow. We specialize in employee benefits. Primarily, we're involved with group insurance, but we do pension plans as well.
I have noticed both of you in your ads have been are claiming, or each of you is claiming, to be a friend of the farmer, and I don't doubt that. Now, Mr. Sanders, if you are reelected and stay in the state senate, what do you propose to do for the farmers in this district?
Well, I think there's many things that we need to look at to enhance farmers' income. One would be to try to attack a slaughter facility for the beef cattle market in Kentucky. The problem that has not happened to this point, in my opinion, is the high cost of workers' compensation. So hopefully when we go into a special session in December that workers' compensation can be a problem that we deal with, or we can attract a beef slaughter facility in Kentucky. Also, I have been interested in the research that they have been doing at Kentucky State University in growing shrimp in farm ponds. I think that's something that is exciting and offers a lot of opportunities for farmers in this area. I think it takes a diversity. Over in the area around the Park City area, there's a farmer over there who has been growing yellow root and ginseng, and I think that's something that we need to look at. I have in the past always supported the University of Kentucky in their research and development, and I will continue to do that. I think that's something that is the future for better farming and for more income to the farmers is research.
Mr. Dickinson, what would you do?
Well, I certainly think a slaughterhouse is a main priority. I've talked with that at some length with the Commissioner of Agriculture, Billy Ray Smith. And I don't agree that workers' comp is prohibitive to the point that we can't have a processing facility in this part of the country. I do think it is an inhibitor, and improvements in that area would certainly have an impact on locating such a plant. But I think that this part of Kentucky has everything we need to attract business, and I read in the Courier Journal just recently that Kentucky is ranked number 5 in attracting new business. So I don't see any reason why we can't attract such a facility here in southern Kentucky. Secondly, I would like to encourage the practice of local backgrounding, and that involves not selling a calf shortly after birth, but seeing that calf through to maturity and adding weight here locally before it's taken to market.
Do either of you have any ideas or programs about, or ideas for programs to increase alfalfa production and the marketing of it in this area? Mr. Sanders.
I know that that's something that that is becoming a huge demand for alfalfa hay production, and I would support the testing of the alfalfa, the returning of the testing program for alfalfa hay, because I think that's something that we need to have, where that our farmers can know what quality they need to produce at the maximum level.
Mr. Dickinson.
If I'm not mistaken, this part of the state is the largest producer of alfalfa hay in the Commonwealth, and I too would support testing and encouragement of that crop.
You've already mentioned a possible special session to deal with workmen's compensation. Mr. Sanders, in your judgment, what is wrong with the present workmen's compensation law?
I think the main problem that we have is the coal industry being lumped in together with all businesses. I would favor, and I think the governor has stated that coal should try to pay its own way. There's been recent stories in the Courier Journal where the majority of the claims paid out have been over in the eastern part of the state. I would favor that coal needs to be in a separate fund, and I think we do need to tighten up the definition of injury.
Mr. Dickinson.
Well, I quite agree with that. Coal's got to pay its own way, and the definition of disability is so loose now, and awards have been made so freely that it has put the entire workers' comp system in the state of Kentucky in jeopardy. I'm certainly in favor of redefining illness, injury, and disability in an attempt to lower premiums, and I think that will lower premiums. And in lowering premiums, we will be able to attract more jobs to the state of Kentucky. Because of that, I think the redefinition of injury and illness is a labor-friendly move as well as a business-friendly move. In addition to that, the Health Care Reform Act, which I'm sure we'll get into in some detail later, calls for a 24-hour pilot program. Now, while I'm in favor of abolishing most of the provisions of House Bill 250, I think the 24-hour pilot program is worthy of some merit and needs to be pursued. 24-hour pilot program would package workers' compensation and group medical insurance into one plan. That effort, if it can be made to work, and I think it can, should reduce the administrative costs involved in both of those insurance products by approximately 15%.
Do you know of any state that has the package program?
No, sir, I don't. And I think the pilot to this point, 2 years into House Bill 250, has been a failure because someone has been dragging their feet.
Do you know of any state that has
No,
a
sir,
package program?
I do not.
Do you have any idea about that?
I think it's something that's worthy. I think that in talking to business people, they feel like that there should be one payment for workers' comp and health insurance, that one policy should be able to take care of it all. And I think that's something that at the national level that they have even talked about it.
I noticed in Representative Nunn's ads that he says that he has a program to amend the Workmen's Compensation Act, 40 or 50 pages. I believe he said that he had pre-filed it. Have either of you seen it?
I have not seen it.
I have not seen it.
I was just wondering what was in it. You've already mentioned health programs and said we would get into it. I do have that down here, so I guess we might as well get into it now as later. The 94 legislature went to great length under Governor Jones to pass a new program, the Kentucky Health Purchasing Alliance, which supposedly was going to enable everybody to get lower cost health insurance. Then the 96 legislature came along, of which you were a part, Mr. Sanders, and emasculated a lot of it, left a lot of it. In your judgment, Mr. Dickinson, did the 94 Act need to be changed as it was changed in the 96 legislature?
Well, let me first very carefully clarify my position on the original bill. The original bill was House Bill 250. I was opposed to it. Unfortunately, it passed. And once it passed, my position was, let's give it a chance to work. The 96 legislature, through Senate Bill 343, amended the Health Care Reform Act to the point where local governments and certain other entities that had been previously mandated into the Health Purchasing Alliance no longer had to purchase coverage through the Purchasing Alliance. Now, in my judgment, allowing those entities to go outside the alliance, and the other initiative of that bill, which allowed associations to be what we call experience rated, will cause the Kentucky Health Purchasing Alliance to eventually become a high-risk pool, so to speak, so that healthy groups with positive experience will seek coverage outside the alliance, and when that experience becomes bad, they will move back into the Purchasing Alliance. So left like it is now, as amended by Senate Bill 343, the Purchasing Alliance, in my opinion, is doomed to failure.
But you were against it in the beginning also.
I was against it initially.
Why?
I think initially I was against it because of my role as an insurance agent, but I think there were a lot of elements in it that that would simply cause it to fail.
Mr. Sanders, why, I believe you did vote to amend the bill in the 96 legislature, correct me if I'm wrong. Why do you think why did you think that it needed amending?
What happened was, I didn't vote for the final version. Whenever I saw at the beginning of the session that associations and other groups were going to be exempted.
What associations? You talking about the insurance associations?
I'm talking about business associations.
Okay.
And whenever I saw that they were going to be exempted out of the pool and in receiving calls from my constituents, I put an amendment on that particular bill early in the session to basically abolish the entire health care bill from which House Bill 250. The amendment and bill was never called up for a vote. The majority floor leader said at the time that if the bill was called up and my amendment was brought forth, that it would have passed. So that bill, with my amendment, hung on the board for several months. Then later, a compromise was worked out between the House leadership and the House Republicans. The bill was passed. It went to the Senate. It was something where that other insurance companies said that they would come back to the state of Kentucky. There's been over 100 insurance companies that have left the state of Kentucky since the passage of House Bill 250. When the bill got over in the Senate side, the Senate leadership would not agree with the changes that had been made in the House. The bill came back to the House in the form of Senate Bill 343. At that time, I voted against Senate Bill 343 because I felt like it was doomed for failure. And I think that we have saw evidence of that, because the state employees, the healthy people, will be getting out of the pool through the associations and other bodies, and the state employees' rates will go up because the high-risk people will be purchasing through what's left of the Purchasing Alliance.
Well, I think it'd be safe to say that as of right at the moment, there's not a great deal of difference between you two gentlemen about the Health Alliance bill.
If I may elaborate.
You may, and then I'll have another question. Go right ahead.
All right. The federal legislature passed the Kennedy-Kassenbaum bill earlier this year, which essentially does what I think the only good parts of House Bill 250 did, and that is to provide Americans as well as Kentuckians with guaranteed issue health insurance and with portability of coverage. That is to say, you don't lose your coverage when you change jobs, nor do you have to satisfy a new pre-existing condition clause if you're an individual and buy a new policy. So the good parts of House Bill 250 have been adopted on a national basis, it appears. And inasmuch as that is the case, I think the Health Care Reform Act in Kentucky should be repealed. I do think we should give the 24-hour pilot project for workers' comp and health insurance in one package. I do believe we should give that more attention.
I would favor remaining with the Attorney General having the authority to investigate and look at the rates that insurance companies charge. I favor that provision of what's left in Senate Bill 343. I do agree that the federal legislation looks like that it would take care of a big problem here in Kentucky.
You anticipated me. I was going to ask about the provision in the bill that allows the Attorney General to intervene, as well as the Insurance Department, the Insurance Commission, about rates. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I certainly have no objection to either one of those parties being allowed to review rates and to review the factors behind making those rates.
Do either of you think that there's any other legislation in regard to health insurance that should be initiated? I ask you first, Senator.
I think that we have to talk to the insurance companies. There's been over 100 companies that have left the state, and to bring them to the table and to see what can be done to get competition back into the state of Kentucky. We have basically one private insurance company that is covering the whole state, and is Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And we have to, if those provisions will get competition back in here with what the federals have passed, then that's what we need to do, because we need to have competition in the marketplace.
Mr. Dickinson.
I quite agree with that. House Bill 250 required that the Health Policy Board, which has now been abolished, required that they develop no more than 5 standard plans. and each carrier would have to develop their policies identically to these standard plans. And the only difference between carriers would then become in the provider networks, the service offered, and the premium. And the reasoning behind that was to make comparison between carriers more, make it easier for the consumer. I think if we abolish House Bill 250, then that abolishes the 5 standard plan requirements, and insurance companies will have to abide by guaranteed issue and portability on a nationwide basis now. So I think that will bring competition back to the marketplace in the state of Kentucky.
Before we leave the health question, what about HMOs and the allied plans with HMO? Is there need for some legislation in regard to HMOs? Mr. Dickinson.
I don't think there's any need for any further legislation in HMOs. If we return competition to the marketplace and there's more choice and the consumer is offered a wider variety of selection, then the marketplace is going to drive itself and in effect police itself. Now, when you say HMOs,
suppose you briefly explain what we're talking about.
Okay, an HMO stands for Health Maintenance Organization, and when you say HMO, I think really what you're talking about is managed care.
That's right.
And managed care is available in a health maintenance organization, in a point of service plan, and to a certain degree in a preferred provider organization. I personally don't favor managed care because it takes choice away from the consumer. It mandates the selection of a primary care physician, which must be a general practitioner, family practitioner, internal medicine specialist, or pediatrician. Now, under an HMO and a POS, in order to get to a specialist, a cardiologist, if you will, you must first get a written referral from your primary care physician. Now, this has created a tremendous amount of claims problems for people in Kentucky, and my office deals with those on a daily basis. But the only indemnity plan, which is the only pure non-managed care plan available in Kentucky today through the Purchasing Alliance, is Kentucky Care, and the only one outside of the Purchasing Alliance is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kentucky. Excuse me. Blue Cross Blue Shield also offers HMOs, point of service plans, and PPOs. But if we bring more carriers back into the marketplace and have the availability of more indemnity plans, I think that problem will begin to solve itself. They are popular price-wise, but they are unpopular service-wise.
Well, to elaborate a little bit more, in one respect, I think you've left out a very important element of HMOs, and that is that, and the general group that fits that, the managed care, that is that there is incentives for the doctors and the health providers to curtail services. And the more they curtail the services, the more that they get. In other words, there's contracts that they are, as you know as well as I do, there are contracts they're paid so much per patient, or they're paid so much for what they do, and the less, and they get this amount regardless, and the less service they provide, the more they make. And that, in my judgment, creates a conflict between the doctor and the patient. And as was pointed out in today's Courier Journal, Humana there is a provision in most of these plans that prevent the doctor from even explaining to his patient or her patient the cost and the alternatives and whether there are any alternatives. And what I'm really driving at, should there be some legislation in Kentucky curtailing this? Mr. Sanders.
I think we need to look at that, and also I think we need to have the any willing provider to be able to compete in those HMOs. If we're not careful, we will be squeezing out the mom and pop drugstore. All the doctors will have to be in a group, so to speak. So I think that we need to look, if a provider will do it at the same cost, and that would bring out some competition, then that is provision that we need to be looking at. We also need to keep an eye on, as you suggested, on the HMOs, where the conflict between the patient and the doctor and the other physicians exist.
Anything else, Mr. Dickinson, on this subject before we go to another?
I conclude that you infer that HMOs might influence a physician to violate his or her Hippocratic oath. The ones I know certainly wouldn't do that. But certainly...
they're bad apples in all barrels.
I'm being facetious.
I know you are, but they're bad apples in all barrels. And I know of lawsuits that are involved and ongoing right now because of the conflict that these HMOs have engendered.
Certainly, and I think Senator Sanders is correct. That's an issue that does need to be addressed, and you are correct. We would be remiss if we didn't adopt legislation to address that.
Now, one of the more recent things that we've been hearing about is driver's license for teenagers. And of course, there was a bill in the last legislature that amended the law in that regard. But the latest that I've been hearing is mandatory drug testing before permitting anybody that doesn't have a driver's license to get one. I think it's being proposed nationwide, I mean on a national level, and undoubtedly you're going to hear about it in the state. Mr. Sanders.
I would oppose that. The cost, I think, would be outrageous, and I think that tax money could be better spent on other things. I did support the graduated driver's license bill, and I think the .02 alcohol content is for minors is something that if they are caught and they have had alcohol, then they would lose their driver's license for a period of time. People ask me why that wasn't 0-0, and in talking with committee people, and at the time there is some medication, cough syrup, and that sort of thing that would make it at .02, and I think that that's where I stand on that issue. I would oppose drug testing before you get a driver's license.
Mr. Dickinson.
I would oppose that too, Uhel. When I was in the Marines, what seemed like 100 years ago, they developed a program of random drug testing, and I was personally offended by it. I think I felt like it infringed on my rights. I always tested negative, by the way, but I was offended by it, and I think I think to mandate that would be an infringement on people's rights.
Another issue that was in the last legislature, and I believe it's going to return to this next one, is the matter of what I still call the Bacon Act, the federal law that insofar as funds used for development of public projects, that the minimum wage be set after hearing to determine the average wage for the area, and deprives the contractor of being able to contract with the various subs and so forth for their wages. It was passed by the last legislature. To be fair to you, my recollection is you voted against that.
Yes.
If it comes up again, what's your position?
My position would be to be against it again because of the public projects. I think that they should be exempt. We should be trying to build as many as we can with the amount of tax dollars we have.
Mr. Dickinson.
Uhel, I would support that. You know, not everybody that buys a trowel and a mixer is a mason. And I think the prevailing wage legislation will help ensure that, that our buildings are erected properly by trained craftsmen. I heard the other day that our courthouse annex was not going to be completed because of the prevailing wage act. I think the timing of that excuse is unique, and furthermore, they've owned that building, the county's owned that building for a number of months now, well over a year, and have changed their approach on that building 3 times. So I don't accept the excuse that the prevailing wage will keep us from having a courthouse annex. As a matter of fact, I predict we will have it, and we'll have it in the next 2 years.
So you have no objection to the present law?
No, sir.
Another issue that I think is going to come up again is this matter of permits for carrying a gun. Of course, it only became effective, I believe, in September, and it hasn't had time to really percolate, so to speak, but I've had business people to ask me as an attorney what they should do in regard to posting signs asking or saying that they do not permit and not to bring guns, regardless of the permit, into the business place. And that's a hard question for a lawyer to be asked, and a hard question to answer. And I'll tell you why. If the business posts the signs, and there's somebody that comes on in anyhow and he shoots or kills somebody there, and then the businessman has held himself out as protecting them, he's going to be sued, and he's probably going to pay a large sum of money. Now, the law as it now exists does not address that possibility and doesn't give the businessman, or as far as that's concerned, the local governmental units any protection whatever. And of course, even despite sovereign immunity, if they've got insurance, why, they still lose the immunity up to the amount of the insurance. I believe you voted for this act.
Yes, I did.
Now, do you think or see any need to amend it in some way to take care of this problem, or do you agree that that is a problem?
I agree that it is a problem, and I think that that they should not be held liable if they post the signs. But in looking that, I believe 40 other states already have this provision of the concealed carry law. Florida, Indiana's had it for a number of years. It's a whole lot more lax in Indiana than it is in Kentucky. In Kentucky, you have to first file for a permit at the local sheriff's office. Then the state police will do a background investigation on you to see if you meet the qualifications. Then you have to go with a certified instructor to a firing range to show that you are proficient. So there's a lot of hurdles to go through that in reality very few people will go through those hurdles and have a concealed carry legally. Now, I'm sure today that there are a lot of people walking the streets every day that are carrying firearms and other weapons. Not legally, but let's face reality.
Mr. Dickinson.
Well, I support concealed carry. I've certainly got some reservations about it, but I support it for two reasons. Number one, I think our right to bear arms is guaranteed by the Constitution, and I think the Constitution is crystal clear on that matter. Secondly, it's been my experience that you never need a gun until you really need a gun. So I certainly support the right to conceal carry. I have not thought of the problem that you have brought up, and quite frankly, I'm surprised with as many legislators being attorneys. I'm surprised that that was allowed to pass without being addressed in the original bill. So I would certainly anticipate that that will be addressed in the next session, and I'll have to seek the advice of competent attorneys in the 9th Senate District.
There was a bill in the last legislature, and I'm sure that the teachers, as well as some other people, will bring it up again or see that a bill is posted for collective bargaining for teachers, and also I think fire departments and city police, as I recall, city police forces in cities of the first 4 classes, I believe is the way it was. Mr. Sanders, for or again?
Well, I think that local control, that's always been my opinion on that issue. The local governmental bodies have the authority today to decide to do that or not, and I think that I would be for letting the law stand it is today with the local decision making.
Mr. Dickinson.
I would support collective bargaining, but if and only if we have a no strike clause. I think the teachers and firefighters and policemen and the activities of these employees are much too important to be left to the possibility of a strike.
There is still much talk about CARA, the Education Reform Act, and particularly testing. Mr. Dickinson, do you think that there should be some revisions to the law, and if so, what?
Yes, sir. I think the main bone of contention among CARA opponents, at least the ones with which I've spoken, is the curious testing. In my conversations with opponents, they tell me that they have no idea where their children stand in relation to other parts of the country. So I would support a measure that would modify curious testing to give us some method of gauging how our children are progressing in comparison with children in other states.
Mr. Sanders.
I agree with Mr. Dickinson on that. That is something that I have heard over and over again, and my mother being a school teacher, we need to have a test in Kentucky that can pair with children in other states to see how our children are doing here in Kentucky. You know, whenever CARA was initiated, the New Hampshire firm was giving a contract to develop a test. Millions and millions of dollars have been spent on the test. At the time, I think the Commissioner of Education said that we were going to be selling the test to other states. That hasn't happened. The commissioner that was there at that time is no longer in that position, and I think that it's been a boondoggle and a waste of taxpayers' money the way the testing has been handled. I think that local universities should have some input, and they should be involved in helping with the testing. I also favor local decision-making on the ungraded primary. I think if it's working in some areas that it should continue to work. it should be decided at the local level, rather than being mandated down from Frankfurt. So that's where I would stand on some changes made to the Education Reform Act. I do favor increased funding for the family resource centers. I think that has been a positive thing. I hear a lot from parents and from kids that has helped them tremendously, and I think that should be made available everywhere.
Do you have any other complaints, or as far as CARA is concerned?
I think there's been too much mandated down from Frankfurt. You know, the emphasis behind CARA was more local control, and I think that hasn't happened always.
Mr. Dickinson.
I hear some complaints about the makeup of school-based council. I'd like to study that particular issue a little bit more. I'm not sure that there's a problem there, but I know there is some concern about the makeup of those councils.
Such as?
The number of teachers to the number of parents ratio, and from what I'm hearing, the deck is stacked in favor of the teachers, and the teachers recommend, when there is a vacancy in the office of the principal of that school, the site-based council recommends who is to become principal, and that's like employees and employing the employer. Again, I want to look at it in a little more detail, but that's what I'm hearing.
There is also an issue out there, as I understand, in regard to site-based councils. Some people say increase the authority that they already have, and there are others who say decrease it. Have either of you heard any complaints in that regard? Mr. Sanders.
Yes, I have. I do think that there should be some authority somewhere where they say that someone's in charge, with the whether it be at the council level or the school board, and that has been a conflict that has been going on between the school boards and the councils.
So you think that issue should be remedied one way or the other?
Yes.
Which way do you think it should be remedied?
I think that probably the final decision should come with the school board, because they're the ones that, in case of a lawsuit, would be subject to having it defended, the way I understand it.
Mr. Dickinson.
I'm inclined to disagree with that, Uhel, because one of the intents of CARA, I think, was to take the politics out of the public school. So my inclination would be to give more local control and more control to the site-based council.
Another issue that has been in the legislature the last several sessions, by that I mean 2 or 3, is this matter of abortion and a 24-hour waiting period and so forth for a woman before getting an abortion. I'm sure there's going to be legislation introduced in regard to that and other abortion issues in this next legislature. Mr. Dickinson, would you favor such a law, the 24-hour waiting period and costly rules for abortion clinics, or would you prefer to leave the law as it is?
I think I would go along with the 24-hour waiting period. That's an issue, Uhel, that I've wrestled with and spent a great deal of time with. I've tried very hard to put myself in a young woman's shoes that might be faced with this issue, but I think that's impossible in the final analysis for a man to do. I'm opposed to abortion. I support right to life, and I think I would be in favor of that.
Mr. Sanders, I think you voted for such a measure.
I have, and you know, it's a difficult situation for men to really be making decisions on. But in talking to women who have who have made that decision to have an abortion, young ladies without having some information. Lots of times they feel like they made the wrong decision, and I think a 24-hour waiting period is something that is needed in this state. And I have been endorsed by the Kentucky Right to Life, and I have always voted pro-life.
We've got questions, have been having questions about the intangible tax in Kentucky for quite some time. To eliminate it, you'd have to have a state constitutional amendment. There are certain businesses that have complained about it and say it keeps business out of the state. And the bat company in Louisville went to Indiana primarily because of that, so they said, but yet they came back. Mr. Sanders, would you favor placing a constitutional amendment on the ballot in regard to abolishing intangible taxes?
I would, but I'm not so certain that it takes a constitutional amendment. I think that the rate is set by the state legislature and the rate of taxation, and I think that the legislature could set it at such a low rate that it would be almost non-existent. And I would be in favor of first looking to see if the rate could be reduced substantially, and then if that were not the case, then I would certainly support a constitutional amendment. But a constitutional amendment would take, if we were to pass it in the '98 session, it would be the year 2000 before that issue could be brought up, and that would be at least 3 years there where that there would be taxes on intangible.
Mr. Dickinson.
Well, I would certainly support a constitutional amendment on the ballot to do away with the intangibles tax, and I would certainly support a measure in the legislature, if that indeed is possible, to lower it or even set it at zero. And I think it is an inhibitor to business in Kentucky.
We've talked about a lot of things, but we haven't touched as yet, except indirectly through drugs, one of the major concerns of the public, and that's crime. Mr. Dickinson, what proposal, if any, do you have or would you make in the legislature to reduce or control or reduce and control crime?
Well, I certainly endorse the idea put forth by my cousin John Rogers, who has said he will introduce a bill in the House to ensure that anyone convicted of a crime where a child is the victim, be that physical abuse, abduction, or selling drugs to a child, any crime where a child is a victim, that once convicted, that perpetrator must serve his entire sentence or her entire sentence without the chance of parole. And I think it's time to send a message to people who would take advantage of the innocent, be it a child or the elderly, anyone who would take advantage of the helpless, that we're not going to stand for that anymore. So that's certainly a bill that I would like to introduce in the Senate.
Mr. Sanders.
That's something that I would certainly support. As I stated at the chamber breakfast the other morning, that was some legislation that I would have no problem whatsoever supporting. I would also favor looking at the possibility of juveniles and possibly going back with a court case possibly to decide whether juveniles could be held with the same facility as adult prisoners. Now, I'm not saying that we put them together, but the way I understand the law is now through a court ruling is that the same staff that staffs a adult facility cannot staff a facility with juveniles. Now I think that is should not be the case. I think there should be a barrier there where the juveniles do not have any contact with adult prisoners, but they should be able to have the same carers that take care of the adult population should be able to go over and take care of the juvenile population, which would save a tremendous amount of money for the state of Kentucky.
Are you satisfied with the present parole laws?
I think that it probably should be tightened up. I favor legislatures not having any impact on parole board hearings. I know that is something that has happened in the past, and I think that is something that we should stay out of.
Mr. Dickinson, do you think the parole laws should be examined and possibly tightened or
yes,
changed?
I certainly do. In addition to that, I would support what I refer to as 3 strikes and you're out. Anyone convicted of 3 violent felony offenses, in my opinion, has had all the chances they need, and they need to be treated as habitual felons and kept in prison.
Even though that would require the building of more prisons?
Even though that would require the building of more prisons. Again, it's time to send a message to repeat offenders and habitual criminals that we're tired of it. We're not going to put up with it anymore. I think that's probably the reason for the concealed carry legislation that passed the last legislature. People are scared.
We haven't got too many more minutes, and there's 2 or 3 things, and one issue in particular I want to address, but because I haven't heard anybody mention it locally or elsewhere, but the 2 or 3 other matters I want to mention quickly. One is, do you think there is a necessity, Mr. Sanders, to revise the tax code in Kentucky?
I would not be for any increased taxes.
That wasn't my question.
Yeah. I think we need to look at it. We need to look at the tax code, and if there can be tax reductions made, yes, I would favor revising, but I would not support moving taxes off one group onto another group.
Mr. Dickinson.
Well, certainly I feel like that taxes should be looked at periodically with an eye toward revision. I made a brief tally of my taxes the other day, and I'm in a 28% federal bracket. Because I'm self-employed, I pay roughly 15% Social Security, pay roughly 7% state taxes. When you add property taxes, sales taxes, and highway use taxes to that, even though I certainly don't consider myself wealthy, I'm working well into July every year before I'm working for myself. I spend more than 6 months a year working for the government. So I think taxes should be looked at periodically, and I think the budget should be severely scrutinized for fat, and there's fat in every budget.
Would you, either of you or both of you, be in favor of appointing a commission to study the tax code and make a report recommending changes, or that it be left as it is?
I think we just got through from having a commission during Governor Jones's tenure, and I think there's been enough money basically spent on commissions. It will take an act of the legislature for that to happen,
right.
And I don't see the mood of the legislature being for any tax increases. Let me say also that the Kentucky League of Cities has proposed wanting the option for a local sales tax. Now that is something that I would be opposed to, because on big ticket items, which I'm familiar with here in Glasgow, and buying farm equipment and buying livestock here, that could severely hamper those businesses.
Mr. Dickinson,
I'm sorry, Uhel, what was the question?
whether or not you would propose, again, the legislature passing legislation to finance a committee or a commission to study the tax code with the caveat to make it fairer and to provide the necessary revenue for the state.
If I was 100% satisfied that such a committee would be 100% nonpartisan and not subject to political pressures from the left and right, I would favor that. However, I doubt very seriously if I could be convinced of that.
Now the subject that I want to bring up is something that the next session of the legislature, and certainly during the term of whoever wins this election, certainly within the next 4 years, you're going to have a situation where the federal Congress has passed a constitutional amendment, which means that the state legislature is going to have to vote to ratify it. There were 5 or 6 constitutional amendments proposed in the last federal Congress. None of them passed, but some of them came very close, and some of them are going to, in my judgment, within the next couple of years. So, if the National Congress passes a budget amendment, a mandatory budget amendment, balanced budget amendment, and it came before the legislature for ratification, for or again?
For it.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yeah, I would support that without hesitation.
There's another one about desecrating the flag. For or again?
There was a resolution in the House of Representatives last session. I supported it. I would support it.
Mr. Dickinson.
Well, I've served my country and served that flag, and the flag is very important to me. I understand the free speech implications of that, but that flag is very important to me, and I would oppose that.
Term limits.
For.
Without question, I'm for it.
Another one that was up there is crime victims' rights. Passing a constitutional amendment guaranteeing crime rights to crime victims. I'm not sure what all is in it, but it does guarantee certain rights to crime victims. For or against, if it passes and comes to the legislature?
I would be for that. I think that we need to protect our victims to the greatest extent that we can.
I certainly would support that. I think we have pampered and been concerned with the rights of criminals for a long time, and I think we should give attention to the rights of some of those victims.
Prayer in school.
For. I co-sponsored a bill.
For.
And the last one, abortion.
For.
An amendment prohibiting, a national amendment prohibiting abortion.
Well, again, I'm a right to lifer, even though the major groups have endorsed my opponent, and that's the way I would stand on that amendment.
Gentlemen, I think we've run out of time. I certainly appreciate each one of you being here, and thank you very much, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.